Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
We had a new or expanding project in 37 parishes.
The effort of state economic development to strengthen Louisiana.
When I wake up in the morning, I know that I'm here with my family.
Adoption success stories throughout the state.
Over 270,000 meals that we were able to provide.
The life-changing work of St. Vincent de Paul.
Hi, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top headlines in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, we've got news involving the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
A federal appeals court in New Orleans, siding with a legal challenge backed by Attorney General Jeff Landry, struck down a central provision of it, ruling the requirement that people have health insurance is unconstitutional.
The court did not rule whether the rest of Obamacare is so closely tied to the mandate, though, that it must also be struck down. We'll continue to follow it. Now we'll look at some other news making headlines across the state.
Storms that featured an outbreak of tornadoes roared through the state this week ahead of a cold front and had people fearing for their lives. In Vernon Parish, a 59-year-old woman died when a tornado destroyed her mobile home. In Alexandria, children in a church school had to be rushed to safety inside the church when a tornado ripped away the roof of the school. Damage is widespread. Undefeated and number one ranked LSU's All-American record-smashing quarterback Joe Burrow hauled off every award possible in the past week, including the coveted Heisman Trophy. He joins Billy Cannon in 1959 as the only two LSU players to win it. For all the records he's broken and brilliance on the field, the part of his acceptance speech being most remembered has nothing to do with football.
Coming from Southeast Ohio, it's a very, very impoverished area, and the poverty rate is almost 2 times the national average, and there's so many people there that don't have a lot, and I'm up here for all those kids in Athens and in Athens County that go home to not a lot of food on the table, hungry after school. And you guys can be up here too.
His words have triggered an outpouring of support for a food pantry in his hometown of Athens, Ohio. Donations now reaching $400,000, many coming from Louisiana. Joe, we thank you for all you do, and we'll see you next in the Peach Bowl against Oklahoma in the college football playoffs. Go Tigers! More water system problems in New Orleans, this time from an explosion at an electrical plant that powers the city's drainage system. It injured 2 people and rattled windows in the neighborhoods nearby. The power plant generates the electricity for the pumps that try to drain the Big Easy when it rains heavily. Governor John Bel Edwards tapped Entergy President and CEO Philip May as the next appointee to the State Board of Regents. The regents make policies for public colleges in the state, divvy up most state dollars for campuses, and develop the master plan for higher education. State education leaders are pushing for all high school graduates within the next decade to leave school with college credit or an industry-based credential. Higher Ed Commissioner Kim Hunter-Reid says the focus is on improving talent development in Louisiana. The search is on for a new LSU president. This after F. King Alexander announced he's leaving Louisiana to become president at Oregon State. King led LSU for 6 years. The university announced Thomas Callaghan, dean of LSU's Paul Hebert Law Center, will serve in the interim until the naming of a new president. It was déjà vu at the latest meeting of the state's Revenue Estimating Conference. It featured a repeat of gridlock of how to spend state money. A reminder that even though Governor Edwards won re-election, Republicans have no plans to work in perfect harmony with him.
Huge recognition for Dr. Rebecca Gee, the Department of Health Secretary. The New York Times named her one of 5 people who changed the world by spreading hope, highlighting her work to end hepatitis C using a groundbreaking drug purchasing model to treat the disease.
Well, it's great to hear that. Also, the governor announcing a big medical supply center to be built in St. Tammany Parish, that it will mean about 1,100 direct jobs, indirect and direct, for that region. So how was 2019 in terms of economic development for the state? Earlier, I sat down with LED Secretary Don Pierson to get his take. Don Pierson, great to have you to talk economic development for Louisiana once again. Looking at 2019, looking ahead to 2020. Let's start off with Site Selection Magazine selecting Louisiana once again as a top 10 state.
It's an important recognition and one that we build on. We've had a great success story. I think you were talking to me maybe in 2016 when I began this job, and we talked about what would success look like. So here in Louisiana, we've been able to move towards record level of employment, more than 2 million people working, 4.5% growth in gross domestic product, the real measure of the strength of an economy. And what we really wanted to see as well was income levels rising for our families.
What were the high points of 2019?
2019 was really a great year across the state, and I know that people have read being last on lists and things like that, but the evidence, the real, if you look at the performance of the economy, we're doing very well. One of the things I'm very proud of that we achieved in 2019, in 2018 we had projects in 31 parishes across our state. In 2019 we grew that. We had a new or expanding project in 37 parishes. That's so important to the rural areas of our state where life's tough in rural America. That's true across the South, across the U.S. 83 projects coming into the state. Things are growing, not just in our traditional fields in forestry and agriculture and oil and gas. Important, that's our foundation, but we want to see water management, advanced engineering, advanced manufacturing, and the whole IT sector grow and expand as well.
Cybersecurity, that is of course an enormous deal. Louisiana is trying to position itself as a national leader and may have done that, but where does that stand?
We established the Cyber Innovation Center in Northwest Louisiana. We've had a real focus on building a strong IT sector. There's a convergence across the Department of Defense and military type of activities at Fort Polk and Barksdale with nuclear weapons there that have given us a workforce with some security credentials.
All right, there was the announcement of a cybersecurity center, I believe it's called, to be placed on the water campus in Baton Rouge. What will that look like?
Correct. And what was important there is we have a great cyber innovation center in Northwest Louisiana. The challenge is that's 250 miles from Baton Rouge, the center of government, the university here, and a lot of the things. So we needed this additional secure space to work in to build on this opportunity in the cyber sector. So we uniquely brought together a public-private partnership that includes LSU, that includes some companies such as Radiance Technologies and some others that are being packaged into this, and the Louisiana National Guard, so that we have the ability from a state government perspective to be responsive when we have these cyber attacks and to do the training and purchase the software and build the resilience that we're going to need for all the future.
Always staying busy. Don, thanks a lot.
A mom, dad, and 3 boys. They are the Tucker family of Hammond, Louisiana, brought together by adoption that they say was divine intervention. Their story, one of dozens and dozens of successes by the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services. DCFS is breaking records, finding permanent homes for older children and sibling groups throughout the state.
At first glance, you would never know Lonnie and Frankia Tucker became mom and dad to these 3 boys just over 2 years ago. Their game night now a family routine. And fun-filled backyard.
This is telling if it's getting any better.
Hoops, where Dad is king on the court. 14-year-old Javon, 13-year-old Devon, and 11-year-old Travis knew the day they met the Tuckers they were meant to be their mommy and daddy, calling them just hours after that first meeting.
We gave them our cell numbers and told them, you know, they could reach out or whatever. And they had called us and they left a message on the phone and it said, "Mama and Daddy, we love you."
A short time later, the boys would move in with the Tuckers, a bond already formed.
We knew that they were on the way, and so I was in the shower.
Oh, yes.
And all of a sudden, I just hit beating on the door. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, where? Daddy, Daddy." So, and people were asked, like, "Did y'all tell them to call your mom, Dad?" Like, no, we never told them anything. You know, and it has just been
from the first day.
It's been seamless.
Yeah.
From us getting on them to us loving on them, it's all been just, I mean, it seems so natural.
Yes.
And so it's never felt like, you know, we're trying to force it, you know. No, it's never felt that way.
The Tuckers, married for more than 18 years, had talked about adoption while they were still dating.
When we started getting serious, I said, I believe God has a calling for me to adopt children, you know, so I wanted to know, do you want to still go further, you know, with knowing that I'm going to have to give children a home that wouldn't have a home, you know, otherwise. And so I believe that won her over. I think she got a little more loving than we did.
They wanted kids of their own too, but their faith tells them this was the master plan.
We didn't even know that we would have problems getting pregnant. So a lot of times people look directly at that. Well, no, that wasn't our reason. We had already determined in our hearts that we were going to do it before we even knew we would have problems, you know, having children ourselves.
And ever since, it's been full speed ahead, instant parents, and enjoying every minute of it.
We kind of walked right into, you know, instead of being up all night, you know, we probably were up all night. You know, we're different, you know, for different reasons. Yes. You know, not crying or you know, changing diapers, but for other, you know, changes that teenagers go through, and it causes them to react and conduct themselves in ways they don't even understand. It's just so much change in just one time overnight. For us, we go from, hey, 12 midnight, let's take a ride, let's go get a snack, to where, okay, we got 3 kids at home now. Right. So it limited us on just how we move, and, you know, so we had to make plans now for 5 instead of just us 2 pack up, go take a trip over the weekend.
And it was only 2 of us for 15 years.
And oh, how that has changed.
Our house is not quiet anymore because it gets lonely when it's just 2 of you. We can only do so much talking to each other, but around 2:50 every day, the noise comes on. And so that's exciting. Our holidays mean so much more. You know, we have our boys to share our holidays with.
Having them, you know, around the house, at home, you know, I mean, it's constant. Our house never stops. It's constant. Now, most people would think our house is chaotic because but it's not. You know, they'll come here, they're watching TV, they're doing their thing. So they're not just all over the place doing, you know, because we have structure, and so. But just to have them around, to see their smiles, to see their victories, to be with them during their times of defeat, and they feel defeated. But it's still a joy to watch them, you know, just kind of maneuver through these years.
Helping families like the Tuckers find each other is the best part of Marquita Garner-Walters' job as secretary at DCFS. And for the past 3 years, the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services has had record-breaking success.
There were 12 awards given by the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, and we were the only state out of the 12. All the other recipients were families or nonprofit groups that work in the adoption field.
To get an award like this, you have to produce, you have to have numbers. So talk about the successful numbers of families affected.
We came in 2016 and there were 735 children that were adopted out of foster care. The next year it was 771. And we thought, wow, we had never broken 700 before. We normally were around 500 or 600, and that was a big thing. And we thought, oh, we'll never do 7. Well, the next year we did 912. And I laugh with the First Lady, who is so involved in this work with us, because it was, how are we ever going to beat 912? So we didn't quite. We've got 893 this year, but when you add that up over 4 years, it's 3,311 children that have come out of foster care and sat around a Thanksgiving table last week with a family that they didn't have before.
Secretary Garner Walters credits changes in the way they operate for the success, implementing the Quality Parenting Initiative, a team approach to foster care that brings biological families, birth families, and the child welfare system together. Working with the Dave Thomas Foundation to put Wendy's Wonderful Kids adoption recruiters in each region of the state, focusing on some of the most challenging and complex cases, including teens, sibling groups, and children with medical and special needs. And helping First Lady Donna Edwards launch the Louisiana Fosters Initiative, which calls on churches, nonprofits, and business community members to help children and families. She says it takes a team effort from those in her office to those willing to open up their homes short-term or permanently.
We need both. We need people that want to adopt, but we need people that just want to foster and don't have any intention of adopting, because 2/3 of our kids will go home to their biological family, maybe not to their birth parent, but to somebody in their family. So we need people that are just going to step up and love those kids for the period of time they have them and be that quality parent for that child while they're in their home. But for those that are on the adoption path, it takes a while, and we do that on purpose. We don't rush through an adoption process. We want to make sure we've made the perfect right match. We want to make sure that this family and this child are the right combination, because the worst thing that could happen would be to make an adoption match and then for it to fail.
The Tuckers have this advice for others maybe considering adoption.
You definitely need it. We don't want children to grow up in a system, but we want them to grow up in a home. I just challenge people to be uncomfortable for what's right and what's good for our community.
Secretary Marquita Garner Walters of the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services, or DCFS, was honored in November of this year in Washington, D.C. with a 2019 Angels in Adoption Award for her outstanding advocacy for adoption through foster care.
St. Vincent de Paul offers services throughout the state, but the Greater Baton Rouge organization, headed by CEO Michael Acaldo, offers the widest range of help to those in need. You may be surprised to learn just how much they do, and it gets done with thousands of volunteers. I sat down with Acaldo this week. Michael, it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you about St. Vincent de Paul, especially for the Greater Baton Rouge area, which is the largest in the state.
Yeah, we are. We are blessed to be the largest St. Vincent de Paul Society in Louisiana. We've got brother organizations, sister organizations in New Orleans, Moreau, Shreveport. There's activity in Alexandria, Lake Charles. We're all over, but the largest is in the 12 civil parishes surrounding East Baton Rouge Parish.
What would people know St. Vincent de Paul the most for?
Without a doubt, you know, our food and shelter services, where we make such an impact. Last year, over 270,000 meals that we were able to provide to people who are poor, people who are homeless.
You guys are expanding your beds here in Baton Rouge, and that's
right.
going to open early in 2020.
That's right. In February 2020, we're working on a grant that was provided by the city and the state to provide 36 additional beds that will really help us during hurricane season, during any kind of flood, freeze nights especially. It'll provide us a place for men, women, children, families. We already have over 150 beds. Yeah. This will get us very close to 200 beds that provide services to people who have nowhere else to turn for shelter. a lot of people don't realize is we give away clothing, we give away furniture. We have volunteer teams throughout the state that'll make a home visit. So when they go to a home and a child sleeping on the floor or a family does not have a couch, we will provide those items that are donated to us free of charge to those families in need.
You guys have prescriptive services.
Yes.
I don't know that everyone would be aware of that.
That's right. We've been filling prescriptions here since 1995. We're the first standalone St. Vincent de Paul pharmacy in the whole country. There are, the Moreau has a St. Vincent de Paul pharmacy, but there are other areas of the country, Madison, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Ohio, and I could keep naming all the wonderful places, Dallas, Texas, all these places that have opened up pharmacies modeled out of what happened right here.
What about the Thirst for Justice?
Thirst for Justice is a great program. Again, started here in Baton Rouge, thanks to the Baton Rouge Bar Association. Attorneys who really care about people maybe that don't have a voice, that have maybe, you know, we've had widows come in, Andre, that they say, well, you know, I need my roof repaired, and there's a government program to help with that, but when my husband died, there was no probate, there was no, you know, estate type stuff. And so the attorneys will help with issues like that, issues that are simple to clear up that can really change somebody's life.
And again, it's pro bono work.
It's all pro bono, and it really goes a long way at helping people that need a helping hand up.
It's great information for people to know about.
Oh, without a doubt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for talking
Andre.
to us. Have a great holiday.
You have a great one too.
And to make a donation or learn more about volunteers, check out their website at svdpbr.org. Hey, the governor's re-election win was closer than many experts expected.
At a panel discussion hosted by the LSU Riley Center for Media and Public Affairs and LPB, I spoke with insiders from the campaigns about their strategies. Louisiana Public Square aired the conversation as a part of a special edition this month.
We knew that there was going to be some type of criminal justice reform hit about he's letting, you know, criminals loose and dangerous people into your neighborhoods and all that kind of thing. And so one of the first ads that we ran was him talking about his family, you know, 4 sheriffs in his lineage, a brother who's a police chief, and then also, you know, obviously you don't go to West Point and serve as an Army Ranger if you're not interested in protecting people.
If you looked at the polling in August and early September before the negative advertising, people liked Eddie and they liked our message, but they just liked Abraham better. The intensity of our voters was not that great. Our very favorable number was very low, like 10% or so. So we just weren't getting the same intensity. An interesting stat that we found in the verbatims of our survey, people thought that Eddie was the conservative outsider. But of those who thought that, they were voting for Abraham. People believed that Eddie was the job creator, but of those who believed that, they were voting for Abraham. So there was a serious disconnect with some of our message and its translation to the ballot. And the reason is because the voters just liked Abraham better than Eddie at that time. So going negative was the only path to victory for us.
If you have a campaign that you're running against that is willing to say things that are blatantly false, fundamentally untrue about a candidate, and they have unlimited funds to do that, I don't know what you can do to get past that. I don't think this is a referendum on, or don't think this means that, you know, you can have money and be able to win a campaign. But if you have unlimited funds or a significant amount of funds and you're running against a candidate that has a very limited amount of funds and are willing to say things like the things that were said, I really don't know what else we can do or what else we could have done.
Election Reflection 2019 re-airs this Sunday at 11 o'clock on LPB. It also includes a panel discussion on the future of the legislature with so many new members. You can find out more information about the program at lpb.org/publicsquare.
Many of our cities are known by buildings or monuments. New Orleans has St. Louis Cathedral, the Superdome, and many more, for example. Baton Rouge, the state capitol. Well, Morgan City is much smaller, and its monument is much simpler. But the spirit of Morgan City, right there on Brasher Avenue, announces where you are. And with a new festive tradition, it takes on a spectacular look this time of year. When the holidays roll around, the iconic shrimp boat enters a whole new dimension, and it becomes part of a life-size
Cajun Christmas Fantasy. It's the creation of Emmy Award-winning artist Lee Romer, his way of giving back to his hometown and to show his love for it. It's a display you can only see here, and when it debuted in 2018, the city went wild with excitement. Then just a few weeks ago, Thanksgiving night, Romer returned, and the town turned out again to celebrate and to marvel at it all.
I'm going to keep coming back and make sure it looks great, and it's just so much fun to see you guys and see you enjoy it. So that's all I have to say, and thank you so much for coming out. It's great to be home.
You can see the lit-up spirit of Morgan City is transformed into a swampland sleigh for Santa and his crew of 10 multi-ethnic elves. Romer added oversized presents this year, and once again, 3 10-foot-long rain gators with blue crab antlers lead the charge into the night, carrying goodies to all the boys and girls. The uniquely Louisiana display is actually created almost 2,000 miles away at Romer's Los Angeles studios. The scene may be down on the bayou, but these detailed characters are crafted using high-tech digital sculpting tools, computers, and 3D printing. For Santa, Romer was hands-on and sculpted him from traditional clay. You can see it all aboard the Spirit of Morgan City until early January. It is a new holiday attraction there. We have some sad news to pass on to everyone. Prominent Shreveport philanthropist and LPB legend Delton Harrison has died after a short illness.
He was a tremendous giver to the arts for decades and decades. Shreveport Regional Council Executive Director Pam Atchison said he was generous beyond words. Delton Harrison was 88.
And that's our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, we leave you with the sounds of the LSU a cappella choir. Have a joyous holiday.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.